you've looked at feathers closely, you are aware that there are fluffy feathers and fairly symmetric short feathers that have some fluff and some of what we call a pinnate shape, sort of like a little flag, right? And then there are fancy feathers where there are colors and textures and patterns. And a great example of this is on the peacocks, which make these incredibly elaborate feathers. These feathers have been dyed. They're just chicken feathers for art projects, but I wanted to show them to you because these are what I'm casually referring to as flight feathers. These are asymmetrical pinaceous feathers. So they have that sort of flag shape. They've got only a little bit of fuzz, and they are asymmetrical. This side is shorter and this side is broader, and there's a curve to it. And feathers like this have a very important roles at the positions of the wings that control directed flight. So not accidental flight and not just a little bit of thrust, but actual directed, I want to go there kinds of flight. Now, if we consider pinaceous asymmetrical feathers, these are very derived traits. And if we place them in a cladistic context in terms of the phylogeny of the animals that have them, let's see, Maniraptorans have symmetrical feathers. But we have to go a little bit farther into Paraves to get pinaceous symmetrical feathers that are all over more of the body, and we have to go deeper into we have to go into more derived bird groups to get the full variety of feathers that we see on everyday birds alive now. All right, so how we can also look at an individual animal as it ages and how it can illustrate snapshots of different architectures that have played a role in the evolutionary trajectory of these animals. So here is what I mean by that. This is a kind of pigeon, we'll say, baby, subadult, adult. Now in real life, they are these sizes, tiny, tiny. Here, I'll minimize me. They are tiny, tiny, medium, and big. If we set them to all have the same relative body size, then what these researchers have done is said, okay, well, let's compare what the wing, what the feathers growing directly out of, the arm are able to produce for this animal. Now, there are a couple things I want to point out here. One of these I've written in red here. Derived traits can take time to grow within an individual. So you can look at this adult bird that is alive today and say, wow, look at all your derived features. You got the big heeled breastbone and you've got these long arms, and look at your glorious feathers for directed flight and your asymmetrical pinaceous feathers on the wing that are very long. This is a fully fledged adult bird, all right? But if we look at that bird when it's really small, all right, this is 7 days post hatching. So this is a bird that's 1 week old, all right? One of the things you can notice that keeled sternum is not very big yet. That is a feature that takes time to grow within the individual animal. And another feature that takes time to grow is that here, if we look at the feathers, we have feathers that are small, they are pinaceous, and they are more symmetrical than asymmetrical. They're only lightly asymmetrical, okay? So the feathers on the wing of this baby bird that's only a week old are not the same as the feathers produced by the adult bird. And the shapes expressed in the baby bird are not the same as the adult bird. Derived traits can take a lot of time to mature within a single individual. This allows us, in some cases, to look at juveniles and explore which traits they show that might be illustrating more basal characteristics. If the large-keeled sternum takes time to grow in an individual animal, and if the large-keeled sternum is a derived trait of modern birds, then looking at the baby bird might help us think about what their more basal relatives should look like, and then we can test those observations against the fossil record. It's a two-way street. We don't just look at fossils and we don't just look at modern animals. We have to look at both. And what these researchers here Untitled did is they looked at, here they have superimposed the wing. So this is the week-old baby bird, this is the subadult baby juvenile bird, and then all the way out here, this is the adult bird, okay? The baby has symmetric, relatively short feathers, and the adult has asymmetric, relatively long feathers. And these are examples from the fossil record of feathers that express themselves in extinct theropods, similar to what we see on a juvenile bird or in a subadult bird or an adult bird. So the different kinds of feathers that we see on fossil theropods through time, we can relate those both in form and function to birds that live today, but maybe we have to take a close look at the juvenile birds. Again, feathers that are not asymmetrical pinaceous feathers arrayed into a wing are not going to support flight. But once you have asymmetrical feathers arranged into a wing at a big enough proportion, this can support flight in these animals.
I encourage you to check it out for yourself. Kafka certainly is a handsome guy, and with those pink eyelids, I think he personally looks quite like a Muppet.